Hey guys, this is Echo Soundworks with another tutorial for MassiveSynth.com. First, if you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel, please sign up at youtube.com/ADSR Tuts, that's TUTS. In today's video, I wanted to spend just a little bit of time giving you a pretty cool tip and trick on how to make the reverb a little better sounding inside of Massive, and then even how to pull off like a gated style reverb, just using the reverb that's stock inside the synth itself. So I was actually on a forum recently about people who are complaining on Gearsluts about the quality of reverbs inside of synths, and some people suggested, why do they even have them? They just take CPU resources, and Massive came up a lot as being one that people thought it doesn't sound very good. And I tend to disagree. I mean, there's certain types of reverbs that the Massive reverb isn't very good at. There's certain things that obviously can't do because it's a basic 4-control reverb. Now that being said, it is a very capable sounding effect for a synthesizer. And there are some things you can do to push its capabilities a little bit further. So I have a little progression worked up with like a pluck type lead right now. So as you can hear, there is reverb on this sound, and I wanted to point out that if we look at the reverb here, let me turn the reverb off. I'll turn off the delay too. So that's the stock sound, and then what I did was, what you can do to really control your reverb, if I turn this off, if I turn this modulation off and we listen to the sound, I will agree, that doesn't sound very good or musical. It kind of washes over the sound and you lose the sound. And if it was in a mix, it would be tucked really far back. And if we look at the controls here, I have the dry wet under 50%. I have the size just at about 50%. So it's not like this is some huge amount of reverb, right? Well, what a lot of presets are, sound sets or sound designers I've seen in Massive, what they'll do is they'll turn the dry wet way down and maybe crank the size up a lot. And you get kind of that bright sounding reverb depending on where your density and color is. Now that's pretty typical. Well, this sound right here, it doesn't really work. Well, if I turn on this modulation, right now what I have a gated style reverb. Do you hear it kind of coming in when there's the space, and when I hit stop, it's almost like there's like a sidechain compressor kind of taking, well, that's what a gated reverb kind of sounds like. It's not what it's actually doing, but just for those of you who don't know what it is, a gated reverb lets the pre-delay or puts a gate on the pre-delay or when it's going to happen. You usually can control this via the pre-delay, or some even have a gate in them. But what it's going to do is it's going to dictate how long it takes for the reverb to actually appear and be a noticeable effect to the sound. Well, you can use an envelope to control that. So with this sound, I had an available open envelope, and you can see I turned the delay up and the attack up. So the delay means this shape, this ADSR, this curve for this envelope won't happen until the delay period, until it goes through this little section of delay, which means there's no signal. Well, that's a really fun thing to put on reverb because it basically makes it have a gated style effect. And if you modulate all the way down where you get that little tick mark, it kind of has that cool pulsating feel. And then if you just go just slightly above that tick mark, you'll get the pulsating feel, but you'll get a little bit of reverb coming through as well. So there's something you can do. It's kind of a gated rhythmic style reverb. And to do that, just create your envelope, create one with a little bit of delay, depending on, what you're playing. Is it really quick and plucky? Is it slow? What tempo are you at? Those are all things you need to consider. And then maybe turn the attack up so it's just a little smoother of a transition, so it's not really, sharp, so you might get some pops if you do that in the audio. And then once you do that, just modulate in a negative direction, so it's downwards or to the left of the center tick of that knob. Now, for instance, if I go out to the right of this, see, that has a totally different sound. So modulating down to the left, gets that bouncy reverb. And that's a really great tool to use on like a Melbourne bounce style lead or a deep house type bass, because what it's going to do in a drop of a song is it's going to add this kind of like side-chained almost bounce to it, but it's a reverb signal. So what it does is it just thickens things. It just thickens up the sound a little bit. And a lot of people will do that. They'll actually use like a bus send or an aux send and use reverb that way to get that effect. You can do it straight in massive if you so choose. So there's one way you can kind of thicken things up using the reverb via creating a gated style reverb effect inside a massive. If you guys have any questions or comments, let me know below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you haven't checked out ADSRsounds.com, head on over there. Tons of cool things, massive and synth related. As always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.